What? No, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna change the podcast name. No, I don't. Okay, listen. You know what? Fine. I'll reclaim it then. I'll reclaim the name, and that'll be the end of it. Yes? Okay. Alright then. Alright, love you too. Sorry about that, guys. Bit of a few things here and there, but it's whatever. Anyways, welcome back to the Clopdrawer Podcast. It has been quite some time since I did an episode, and honestly, I think I've just kind of been neglecting it, trying to figure out what to do and figure out what sort of episode I wanted to try doing. And I also had the idea to do some review videos, but then I ended up getting lazy and I was working on the script before, and then I kind of just stopped, and yeah, I couldn't really make much progress off of it. So I thought, hey, why don't I go back to the podcast format and try to do something at least to get my videos back on the rise again. So yeah. There's a very awkward episode I'm starting off with. I don't know how to really do this because it's been a long while and everything, so I guess I kind of just have to talk about things. I guess I'll talk about the game I've been playing at the moment. I've been playing Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, and I really like it as a game. I think Kingdom Hearts Final Mix is a solid and phenomenal game. I think it's one of those games that I genuinely do find a fondness for. I think it's a game that a lot of people need to try out for themselves. I think it's a game that definitely is one of the best PS2 games out there. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect little thing, but it's just an enjoyable experience from start to finish, and I consider it to be one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Okay, I guess that's a bit much, but I do think it's a good game. I do think it's worth playing and worth experiencing, for as much as it has its own problems here and there. For what it's worth, it's a game that I would recommend to anyone who wants to give it a shot. I definitely had some issues firsthand. From the way I tried to play it, I tried to play Final Mix on PC, and I just found the controls to be so damn slow, and the way you move around your keyblade and doing spells and all that, it just felt way too much, and it was pretty annoying, to say the least. But then I ended up trying out, and then I tried to see oh, maybe I should try doing Final Mix for PC. Well, I guess PS2 is what I meant, sorry. I managed to find a hacked ROM with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix for the PlayStation 2. I emulated it, and I ended up enjoying that game way more. I don't know what it is about. I'm sure maybe if I try to play Final Mix on PC, maybe I'll end up having a better experience for it. But just something about playing the PS2 version felt way nicer and way more fun to control compared to the PC version. I don't know what it was, but I found it to be really entertaining, and I loved just getting to play this game and understanding how Kingdom Hearts gameplay system works. And I think it's a pretty solid game system. It's basically an action RPG, and it strategizes around using your keyblade, doing different attacks, as well as also incorporating different magic spells, whether it be fire, blizzard, stopping time, or gravity in a way, or even just healing. Those are the kind of typical spells you'll get. But genuinely, I find it to be one of the most entertaining things ever. just like figuring out everything and then just kind of like sticking to a style that you like. And it starts no further than like the beginning of the game, because it's like in the beginning of the game you essentially have you get to start off by picking off like what sort of stats you want more out of like lesser stats. So it's like, do you want to have like magic as your priority, attack as your priority, or defense as your priority? And then you can decide like, and then like once you've picked one, you can decide like which one out of the other two that you left behind like you should get like lowered in. So for my playthrough, I decided to have attack up but defense low. Well, actually no, attack up, magic lowered, because while I do think Kingdom Hearts has a good like magic system, I personally do not care about like using magic spells that much unless it's like healing. There's definitely some moments where it's like, I do like how this game utilizes magic spells and how like you essentially use them to activate different switches, like move around different places and essentially like make your way through everything. And I think that's really cool. I do really like that, and how like you're able to just use magic to progress, as well as like use it to solve mini puzzles here and there. I think that's a really cool way of doing it. With the combat of it all, like you'll definitely have moments where it's like, oh, I should be using this spell in order to do as much damage as possible because the enemy is weak to that. But usually it's like you can kind of just take out enemies using your Keyblade, and besides, most of the characters that you have on your team will essentially like help out in doing the most amount of damage and like helping out with magic and stuff. Like having heal, like it's weird. I've heard stories of like how the characters don't heal when they need to, but it's like, I think it's like the settings, as long as you like set up the settings in a way where it's like, you can just like be able to get healed whenever you're like in the red. It's like, they'll actually heal you, and there'll even be sometimes moments where it's like you are low but you're not necessarily like in the red, but they'll heal you as well, which has saved me a lot of times in fights, and has saved me multiple times when it comes to like just hitting my Keyblade around but then forgetting to heal. So it's usually a game of paying attention to like it's basically paying attention to your MP bar as well as like your other character's MP bars, in order to make sure like, okay, they should be able to heal me if I continue attacking here. Like if I do end up in the red, they'll at least be able to heal me. But it's like, if their MP bar is empty, I should probably dodge out of the way before like I end up getting struck out. And I've had many moments where it's like I nearly ended up getting killed just because I wasn't paying that much attention, and that I was like too focused on like doing as much damage as possible, resulting in me like ending up getting killed and not paying attention to everything. But yeah, basically the game system is like, it's HP and MP, so it's like magic points. Each magic spell costs at least 1 MP bar. There's usually like spells that cost like 2 or 3. There's also like physical attacks that also cost MP, which are basically abilities you get. You basically get different abilities as you level up, and you can be able to equip them using like I guess we'll call it ability points. It's referred to as AP, and they're pretty useful. Like a lot of the abilities are really useful for like a lot of different like traversal. I find a lot of the abilities we get are really cool, and I consider be some really nice ones just that kind of fit into my gameplay style. Like I think as an RPG, you kind of have to find your own play style, because it's like, and I think Kingdom Hearts does a good job of like having a lot of customization to its like style of gameplay, because it's like you can pick at the beginning of the game, like, oh, you can decide on like what sort of stats benefit you the most and which ones you don't really need as much, as well as like the picking out different abilities that benefit your gameplay style, and just some general abilities that are just like nice add-ons that really improve the overall game and generally like help out when it comes to battles and stuff. I do think it's a really good system that you can really just benefit from and understand how to utilize. That's also not mentioning like the equipment. Now, for character equipment, I don't think there's much difference, but like with specifically the keyblades that you get, depending on the game, you essentially like can change Sora in a way that's like he's able to like benefit a lot from like higher attack, but he could also end up having like low MP, or you could have a slightly lower attack but high MP, and you get to do a lot more spells and a lot more stuff in battle, and I think that's a cool thing to do. With the equipment, it's kind of like equipment kind of just varies. You can get like equipment that like boosts your AP, so that way you can equip more like abilities into your slot, and you won't have to worry about like lacking in abilities and all that. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat for what it tries to do and what we earn from that. Yeah, that's really the best I can describe it. I think generally I really do enjoy Kingdom Hearts and its combat system. It's not like personally a favorite of mine, but I do like what it does and how it approaches like action RPG style gameplay. And I think it's pretty good. The movement, like you got a lot of mobility and a lot of ways to kind of handle different moves and stuff, and I think that's pretty cool. Depending on what you equip and what like you decide to utilize, it's all really beneficial towards you and really allows you to grow a lot more. But yeah, generally the gameplay is pretty good. I think I'll get into the bosses just in a little bit, but I think I might as well get into the story of it all. So let's get into the story. So you're a kid who is on Destiny Island. Your name is Sora. You essentially kind of just living your life in this world. You get to travel to this island from time to time, and you hang out with a bunch of your friends, but the most important friends that you have are Riku and Kairi. Riku is essentially I guess he's more of the muscle, but also kind of like the edgy boy of the group. Kairi is the sweetheart. Sora is the lovable little guy. I don't want to call him dumb because he can be a bit oblivious, but like he does mean well when it comes to a lot of things. And I think generally he's pretty smart for a kid in most cases. He'll definitely have his moments here and there, but it's like generally they're just like he's pretty alright. They just enjoy their time living on Destiny Island. They reminisce about wanting to see other worlds. They want to see what else is out there and kind of just be explorers and stuff. And I think that's pretty cool. I mean, that fits well. Most kids want to kind of just like explore the world and kind of see for themselves what's out there. I'd say it's pretty cool for what they try to do. They end up, so a day passes, they end up like doing some preparations and stuff. Sora and Riku get into a race, and it's like to decide what the boat should be named after, and then it's like, you ended up missing out on it. So it's like if you end up losing the race, like Riku gets his name, but if you win the race, you get to pick the name. So it's like, it's pretty bad. It kind of sucks that you can't be able to. You have to do it in one try, and it can be a little like frustrating still with the control sometimes. I guess it's mainly just jumping and then landing. Sometimes that can be a bit of an issue, but it's nothing too bad, I'd say. Well, I don't mind it all that much, and then you kind of have to just gather some items here and there. I think there was something about the Pow Pow fruits. Basically, that's like, oh, if you share this with a partner, it's like you're bound forever, and it's like that. I feel like that's inaccurate because I feel like it's more that whoever comes in contact with the Pow Pow fruits and passes it along, that means they're bound together, because I guarantee you Riku and Sora meet way more than like meeting up with Kairi. At least in this game, I think. It might also be the case for the rest of the games, but I think as a little theory, I do think like just by Riku touching the Pow Pow fruit and then Sora like touching it as well, they ended up being bound by fate in some way, which is, I think it's just a little headcanon that I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of that. Then we end up going to Disney World. Yes. So the thing about Kingdom Hearts is that it is essentially a Final Fantasy game with Disney characters, and I think it works well for what it is. It is definitely fascinating. It definitely does a lot of different with the Disney movies and all that, but it's like I'm not too bothered by it. It's whatever. It's kind of something you kind of just have to skim over in order to enjoy this game. Like, I think generally, if you know the plots of the Disney movies, you get a general understanding of what's happening. So it's not like you get too lost with everything. At least that's how I see it. Yeah, I do think for what it does with the Disney World, it's pretty fun. And I do like the interactions and all that. So we then see I guess we'll call it Castle Mickey. We'll call it Mickey's Castle, because that's technically what it is, since Mickey is the king of that world. And it turns out that Mickey is gone, and Pluto has left a letter. Donald gets the letter. He explains to Goofy that the King Mickey has gone off somewhere, and that we're supposed, Donald and Goofy are supposed to keep it a secret from Minnie and Daisy, and then they overhear, so now they have to go find Mickey. And they also have to find a Keyblade wielder, which just happens to be Sora. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So they set off, they get into the gummy ship. Ooh, oh god, I have to explain the gummy ship level. Okay, so the gummy ship is this sort of way for them to traverse the different worlds. I think I'll get into it once, you kind of just, I think I'll get into it later on once, Sora and the whole group is together. But, anyways, we see, Sora kind of, sense that something is wrong. He sees the island is having a storm, and he's like, oh no, the boat that we were making to set off the island, we need to get back to it. It's like he leaps out the window, leaves, and then his mom calls him down for dinner, and it's like, Sora, you gotta come down for dinner. It's like he's gone, and that's a sad thing to think about, that in this entire series we never get to see Sora's mom again, and it's she never gets to see her child again, because there's not a single interaction I can remember from what I've seen that they ever interact ever again. So Sora literally just goes off and he never sees his mom, and that's sad. That's so sad. And he ends up getting to the island. He tries to ward off against these monsters. They're called Heartless, and essentially they're these creatures that are formed from darkness, and they're basically they're basically what happens when like what is it? I think it's like no, because nobodies are like when people lose their hearts. Heartless essentially like form from like the lost hearts, like, and some heartless also like just form out of the darkness. So it's like they mainly feed on the hearts of those around. So it's like you defeat a heartless, you end up releasing the heart that they've taken, and it returns to the person, restoring them. That's a whole thing. I want to get into that a lot more later once I've like played all of these games and like I actually understood everything. But I think generally it's that the heartless, basically the heartless are these little creatures. Essentially Sora ends up like trying to find his way and try to take them down, but like it's not working, and then he eventually receives the Keyblade. I believe it's like he finds Riku, and then Riku explains like this world is falling, the door has been opened, and earlier there was like a cave where there was like this door but it was sealed, and then there was this guy saying like the door has finally been opened and now like the world will fall, something like that. And so in order Sora ends up getting the Keyblade, and now he has to like use it to fight against the Heartless. He manages to fight them off. He heads to the cave, finds the door, sees Kairi, and it's like, Sora, no. It's like and then Sora tries to grab Kairi, but then she like phases out and kind of disappears. Remember that's going to be important later. And essentially the world itself falls. We fight off against this giant titan thing, and we end up getting sent off all the way to Traverse Town. So yeah, Destiny Island essentially gets destroyed in the first part of this game, which is nuts. We then see like Donald and Goofy going around Traverse Town. They're trying to find the Keyblade wielder. Pluto ends up searching around. He finds Sora, who is the Keyblade wielder, and Sora wakes up, then starts going around Traverse Town. He asks around. There's this whole monotonous thing where you have to go into different buildings and like go around in order to like find where like he's supposed to go, because he's apparently supposed to find his friends, I believe, but he can't find them, and he ends up just kind of moseying around, and then eventually he meets up with Leon, and they get into a fight. I think you can actually win that fight, but I didn't, so it's like I end up just losing the fight. Then he falls in a dream. Sora gets a little explanation about the Keyblade, and then he's like, wait, he's explained to it by Kairi, but it's not Kairi actually, it's actually Yuffie, and he's just hallucinating. Meanwhile, in the other room, Donald and Goofy are being explained to by Aerith about like what's been going on and all that. It's a whole situation, and it involves like that the worlds themselves are falling, and that the Heartless are spreading even more, and it's a whole issue. Eventually, like Sora, Donald, and Goofy meet up in the 3rd district. They fight alongside each other, manage to defeat the Heartless in that area, and the two of them, and then like Donald and Goofy realize, oh, you're the Keyblade wielder, and we've been looking for you. We have been signed to King Mickey, and like, I don't know what's going on, but okay, I guess, but I don't want to be this destined guy. It's like, it's a whole thing with Sora, who's like not wanting to do this, but he also wants to find his friends, so it's like he reluctantly accepts, so that way like he can be able to go around and search for his friends. Donald, Goofy help out, and the trio has been formed. So they set off on the gummy ship and head off to, I believe, we have the option, I think it's like we have the option between two worlds. We are able to go to either like Olympus Coliseum all was it Wonderland, and yeah. Generally, I don't mind it too much. I don't mind I don't mind the selection of being able to go between the different worlds. It's like, it's whatever. Just as a short side tangent, let's talk about the gummy ship, because the gummy ship itself is... I don't hate it. I don't hate the gummy ship segments. I don't think they're like terrible. I think they're really nice kind of mini games just to like take out different ships, fly around and all that, go to different worlds. I think it's a nice mechanic for what they're trying to do. Sorry, need some water. The problem is like the mechanics of like building the gummy ship can be a bit monotonous, because it's like the way you're able to put pieces down, the way you're moving the whole thing, it's very frustrating, and it becomes very annoying whenever you have to like kind of build it and all that. Generally, I didn't have too much trouble with it at first, but I get why a lot of people don't like it. I do think there could have been more done to it to improve it, to make it a bit better, but for what we get, I do think it's a solid time, and I do really like just how it's handled in general. Sorry, God, I'm burpy today. I'm a burpy little boy. I do like the customization aspect of it. The problem is the mechanics themselves of customizing the ship are not great. I do enjoy I still do enjoy like modifying the ship, making it stronger, and just like adding these new parts and all that, and just like making it a better ship. I just really like that aspect of it, and it's a fun thing to do, to just like take this like ship that we have and then turning it into an absolute like monster vehicle, and I love it a bit. It's probably my favorite thing about this game, just like being able to customize your own ship and make it your own. If the mechanics were better, I think I'd like it way more. But generally, I do think it's a very entertaining thing to do, and I do find a lot of value in just how good it is. Cause it's like, yeah, I get it. I get why people hate it. I get why like it's people don't like it. But like, for what it's worth, from like shooting around and all that to like the world exploration, I don't mind it too much. Like, I think it's fine. And I do think it's like solid for what it tries to do. Yeah. Let's see. So I believe now we can head off to Wonderland. So Wonderland it's a basic world, honestly. The way it's shaped, it's like, it feels more like you're in a play place, if that makes any sense. Cause like there's no skybox, you're like kind of cramped up in this sort of different room, it's all that. It's weird. Essentially, like, with the way it works, we end up like we have to save Alice in Wonderland, of course. So we have to basically prove her innocence. We have to find different clues, prove that we're actually the good guys, and ultimately it's like, oh, okay, so that's the thing that happens. So we managed to prove the innocence of Alice. We showed the clues to the queen, and then like we managed to take her down and try to save Alice. But then Alice gets kidnapped, and we have no idea what happened. And we just have to end up leaving the world. But then we get this boss fight against this like paper thing. I don't know what it is. It's like if you put like a bunch of like if you put a bunch of like short drums together and then like made it into like a tower of some kind, and then like you had like paper origami type hands on it. It's a creative boss though. I do like the design of it. Not a challenging thing to face off against, not too terrible. So I was able to get through it. Then uh, what is it? We made our way back all the way to, I believe I went back to Travis Town just to check if there are any new things. And then I kind of just headed off all the way back to Olympus Coliseum. Yeah, you kind of, I think another thing that pisses people off about this game is like, oh, you have to use the gummy ship to progress every single time. You have to go all the way to these different worlds, and it's like, it's not terrible. You can be able to like just, like, you do eventually get an upgrade that allows you to warp to different worlds, and like, it's a pretty solid upgrade for what it is. I do think it adds a lot more, and it just like lets the ship exploring be a bit easier. So it's like you just warp to the worlds you've already been. So it's like you just head to the said world, and then you head back, and then it's like, okay, that's what I wanted to do. Like, you can do your tasks and all that, and then like repair, and then it's like, okay, now I can just warp to that world and then like sort out all the tasks and everything. Yeah. So then we head off to the Olympus Coliseum. We get to see Hercules. We get to see Danny DeVito's character. He's setting up for the games. And we basically participate in the games. We then see Cloud Strife, who is there. And I get that. And it's like, I get that, like, it's Final Fantasy characters, but that still caught me off guard just a little bit to see Cloud Strife there. There's a way more surprising character that's in the Olympus Coliseum that's there. But you have to like play through like each cup that gets unlocked to get it, because it's like you end up let's see, you have to beat all 3 cups, and then there's like a gold cup, and then there's a platinum cup. It's particularly the platinum cup where that important character comes in, and oh my god, he's terrifying. Holy shit, I could not do that fight at all. It's a terrible fight that like is way too much for me. I'm sure like plenty of Kingdom Hearts veterans have cleared that fight like it's nothing. So that just makes it even more pathetic that I wasn't able to do it. But it's whatever. I don't think it's too bad. Like the secret bosses aren't too terrible. There's one in particular I fucking hate. But we'll get to that later on once like it's like after the game and all that. So we head off to, where is it? I'm trying to think. Come on, Dominic, let that brain work. Okay, so we did the Olympics. Okay, so we're Olympus Coliseum. We do all these different fights. We do these challenges, and then we fight off against Cloud Strife, and then Hades is there. He is essentially manipulating Cloud Strife in order to like do his bidding, and then it's like Sora defeats Cloud, and then it's like, oh, Cerberus shows up, and it's Hades that summons him. It's like, oh, we gotta fight this big dog. So it's like, we fight the big dog, we take him down, and then we then eventually like able to just head off and kind of start our, I guess, journey to become real heroes. Hercules explains that like I weakened Cerberus before, so that way they had a chance, and that seems a little mean. But then when we actually fight Cerberus, it's a way more easier fight, in my opinion. So it's like, I get it that like they needed that, but it's whatever. I don't care too much about it, all that. Then we head off to Tarzan World. Actually, I forgot to mention about there's a boss in Travis Town that we do. Actually, is there anything else? Oh wait, no, we get that ability later. Okay, sorry. I was thinking of, there's a specific ability that we get that allows us to, like, I believe, access the keyhole of Travis Town. But we'll get that much later. Much later. Sorry, my head spinning a bit. So one, there was a small boss in Travis Town. It's not that bad. We do eventually fight a different variant in the arena. It's a pretty simple boss for what it is. But yeah. Then we head off to Tarzan World. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called like the jungle or something, but I think it's just like it's Tarzan's world, so it's whatever. Donald and Sora get into a fight with the gummy ship controls, and we end up crashing. We get separated from the group, so it's like, oh, okay, now we have to go around and explore the world and figure out how to get around. It's like, okay. And I'll admit, Tarzan World was where I actually gave up on the game. Like, I got to it, and then, like, I was like, ugh, I hate this so much. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I just kind of gave up and, like, uninstalled the game. But then I finally once I figured out how to progress through that world, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, we get some details about it. We get kind of a similar case with the movie. Jane's father isn't there, which is weird, but sure, I guess. We eventually reunite with Donald and Goofy. Donald's very pissed off, and so is Sora. And Goofy's kind of just there in the middle, so he kind of has to play the awkward third wheel of this fight. The two of them, we get fighting. We then see, I guess, I can't remember what his name. He's the fucking hunter that like wants to get all the gorillas and like hunt them down for sport. And like Sora's trying to see if like he can find his friends in this world, like if Riku and Kairi are still around, because in the other worlds he's checked and they're not there. So the group heads off. Tarzan gets added to a team, which I think is really cool. I think that's cool that like you can have Disney characters alongside in your party. Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing that I hope the other games also do. I do hope that it's a continuous thing, because I do really like that as like a fun mechanic of just having characters like be your support and all that. What else is there? We do some like jungle swinging. We head back to Tarzan's house. We find some gorillas, and then we see the poachers about to shoot one of them, and then they run off, thankfully. And like Donald runs in and stops him from shooting, which is amazing. Like just seeing it, like the thing is about this game, having other Disney characters interact with this world, like different Disney worlds, is such a fun thing, because it's like certain things kind of end up being changed a little bit, and I just love that for what it is. It's strange, but it's fun, and that's the charming thing about Kingdom Hearts. It's just a fun time for what it is. There's definitely a lot of like hardness to it in some cases, but it's like once you figure it out, it's like great. We then try to track down the poacher. He's still trying to hunt down all the gorillas. Eventually, like, we managed to find him. There's a Heartless that's like this lizard that's invisible, which I think is a cool boss fight. I think it's very solid. I love the design of it once it's revealed. It's such a cool theme for the jungle world, and I just love it as a fight, and it's very cool. We eventually defeat the poacher, and thankfully he doesn't die. I guess he gets crushed by the Heartless, but it's like, I think he still technically dies anyways. But I think the thing I like about it is that like in the original film, he pretty much gets hanged, and that's such a funny way of doing it, because it's like you're not gonna actually do that scene. That's way too brutal of a scene to do in this movie, which I think is hilarious that like they had to censor that just by having him get crushed by the lizard. which begs the question, do you think Nomura himself was like, hey, why don't we have that scene of him we have the fight in the treetops, but it's like we get to see that scene as well. Like, do you think Nomura actually would have suggested like they have the original scene like kept, or would he have suggested like the change? That's my question to it. Sorry about that. Anyways, we then continue forward. Tarzan we get thrown up by the gorillas. We head towards the waterfalls. We get some treasures and stuff, and then we then find the keyhole to this world, and we seal it up. And essentially, the way it works is that like the keyhole is able to lead to the world's heart, and like the Heartless are trying to find the keyhole so that way they can destroy the world itself. Because once the keyhole has been opened, then it's like the world's heart has been exposed, and the Heartless can now destroy the world, and that's terrible. So that's why we have to stop them from getting to the keyholes of each world. So we seal the keyhole. We get gifted a new keyblade. It's pretty cool, honestly. I love the designs of each of the keyblades we get. They're solid, they're really cool and fit the theme of the world. I do also like the other extra ones we get as we play through the game, which are pretty cool. And generally just a fun thing, you know. What else is there? We continue throughout the rest of the game. We then, I believe it's like, we head back to Traverse Town, we get some ship upgrades, we can now buy parts, and that makes me happy because it's like, oh, we get to upgrade our ship even more, and I love just being able to do upgrades. Like, yeah, I get it. People hate the gummy ships segments, I get that, like, oh, the customization sucks, but I still, like, enjoy it relatively for what we get, and that's the cool thing about it. Then after we get our upgrades and all that, we set off towards Agrabah, I believe. I believe it's Agrabah? That's the next world? If I remember correctly? Oh yeah, we go through a wormhole and then we end up in Agrabah. Now I remember. Because it's like we have to use wormholes in order to get around. We do some traveling. We find Agrabah, and it's like we start off in Aladdin's world now. So yeah, Agrabah is Aladdin's world, just in case you didn't know. We do some exploring around. Honestly, okay, let me explain. I think Tarzan world is pretty good. I forgot to give a review of it proper, but I do think Tarzan world is like one of the more solid worlds. Even if like the moving around can be a bit like hazardous sometimes, I think it's still a solid world for what they were trying to do. With Agrabah, I think I really like Agrabah for what we get. Like all of like everything we've seen, everything like like the whole way everything's set up, I really do like just generally how it's all just a really neat world. And I think it's like a solid time from start to finish. Just generally to be... I think it's a solid world with how it's designed, how the layout is, how the town is set up, how the Cave of Wonders is set up. That's like really cool. So yeah, we the way it works is that like there's a small cutscene before it's like Maleficent is... Oh god, I haven't even mentioned like the subplot and everything. But like essentially, we have all these different Disney villains, and Maleficent is like the head honcho of it all. And she's the one who's leading the Heartless to essentially seal the world and like use the power for themselves in order to like, I guess, take over each of their worlds and like become gods or something, I don't know. So Jafar is part of this group as well, and Jafar and Maleficent are having a talk. Maleficent mentions like, oh, don't let the darkness like take full control of you and all that, because it's like it can, like, you can have the power of the darkness, but it can also destroy you in every single way. Then from there we head off. Then from there, like Jafar kind of just like he manages to find Princess Jasmine. I believe he gets the genie, but that's later on once in the Cave of Wonders. Actually no, we find I think it's, do we find Aladdin? I think we find Aladdin, and then he teams up with us. We set off to the Cave of Wonders with the magic carpet. We then fight off against the Cave of Wonders because it's been corrupted by the Heartless. And then we enter inside, we explore around. It's a very beautiful looking dungeon. I love it as a dungeon and just how it's designed. I think it's really cool with how they did it. Sorry. We get to the main room where the keyhole is. Jafar is there and he has Princess Jasmine, and he essentially uses the genie's power in order to try to take down everyone around him. So we fight him. The Jafar boss fight is pretty cool. I like it as a fight. I think it's very solid. And then the second phase I'd say is pretty easier for what it is, but it's still pretty solid. He essentially uses his wish to turn himself into a genie, but then fuck, I can't remember. Gilbert Godfrey Parrot's character. I think it's Diago. I can't remember if it's Diago or not. But Diago has the lamp, and we have to knock it out of his hands, and then it's I guess claws actually. But then yeah, we basically take down Diago. We get Jafar's lamp. He gets sealed away, and I guess also, yeah, no, Jasmine ends up getting kidnapped and sent off, which is basically just another female taken away by the darkness. So Aladdin decides to wish for the genie's freedom instead of finding Jasmine, which I do think is a good thing. I do like that his character is still intact, that he would still wish for his friend's freedom rather than also try to find Jasmine, which he could have done, but I do think this is pretty good for what it is. So yeah, Sora, Donald, and Goofy head off from that world. Agrabah, pretty good world for what it is, and then we set off to, I believe it's the whale. I think beforehand there was a thing where we encountered Riku, and it's he's also looking for Kairi, and he's the way he's doing it, it's a very a bad way of doing it. He's essentially being corrupted by the darkness in order to do it. So it's and he's basically being manipulated by Maleficent, and it's pretty sad for what it is. I do think Riku's story kind of feels similar to another story that happens in the series, where he's being misdirected and being sort of taunted, ironically by the same character nonetheless. But yeah, it sucks that Riku ends up kind of just being manipulated in order to fight Sora, who he considers a great friend of his. And yeah, Sora, and the thing is that Sora is still looking for Riku and Kairi, but the problem is that he also has to seal the world and save it from destruction. So it is still important, but the fact that Riku doesn't recognize that how important it is, it's damn man, come on. But yeah, so there's another encounter with him. It's Monstro, I believe, which is the giant whale from Pinocchio. I did a certain thing. I did a little oopsie, where it's we encounter Pinocchio here, but it's oh, we were supposed to meet him earlier because he recognizes us, and I'm oh god, I forgot to do that. I forgot to go back to Travis Town. So yeah, Sorry. We then find Geppetto. He's also looking into the gummy blocks. Essentially, gummy blocks are just like what's used to like make the gummy ships, and like he's kind of doing like looking into it and trying to see if there's a way he can use it to get out. We eventually like decide to head into the whale in order to find Pinocchio. We find Riku's there too, and he's basically misleading and all that. We do eventually like get to the I guess the center of it. I hate the whale, by the way. The way you navigate through that thing is so frustrating. You are essentially like just moving around from place to place, and like it's all shifting rooms, and it's like you have to basically use your muscle memory in order to figure it out. I'm lucky that I have at least decent muscle memory, and that I use like the treasure that I've collected as a way to like know that I've been in this room, I've seen everything here, so it's like, okay, I have to go this other way. And it's still frustrating nonetheless, and I just don't like it that much. Yeah, we eventually do manage to find Pinocchio. He's trapped inside like this heartless that is also in the whale. We take it down, it disappears, we get Pinocchio back. Riku has like a thing where it's like you're ignoring your friends, you're not bothering to even find like Kairi. It's like, I'm literally trying my best, dude, I have to seal the worlds as well. It's like it's so painful. Not in a bad way, by the way. It's more painful in a like, I get like Riku's anger, I understand, but it's like he's also not being understanding of Sora as well and his own choices. So that's like a pain as well. Eventually, like we get to the whale again, and we have to defeat the Heartless boss. It's pretty alright. It's a solid enough fight for what it is. And then we basically exit the whale. We then end up, take a different direction. I did go to Halloween Town, but I didn't enter inside of it. Instead, I went in the opposite direction, heading towards Atlantica, which I will agree with everyone. I will agree with every single person. Atlantica sucks. Atlantica is one of the worst levels in the game, and I do think it's like a level that genuinely pisses me off. Atlantica does not like... It is unfair. It is annoying. It is frustrating. It is everything that I do not like, and I just do not enjoy Atlantica whatsoever. I think Atlantica could have been a way better level. I think it could have been handled way better. But my god. The thing is that like the controls themselves are terrible. The way you move is annoying. The way you have to like move up and down and all that, like in the water, is terrible. Like combat is terrible in that, and it's like just even navigating around can be terrible sometimes. But generally it's like it's so annoying for how it is. I do like Ariel in as well. I do like that she's a character that helps out in combat, which I think is really cool. I think that's a really neat thing to do. We then meet up with King Trident. He kind of explains like, be careful around the Heartless, be careful about everything. And then like we do some exploring around. We find this like Trident piece, and it's like it's actually meant to be used to unlock the world, the keyhole to the world. And Trident discovers like, you are not about to open the keyhole, my guy. And then he blasts the object. Ariel is sad about it because it was really pretty, and she runs off. And like Triton then explains like, I know what you guys are doing. I know why you're here, because you're from another world. And he explains that, like, you cannot tamper with other worlds. And it's like, my guy, literally, like, we are out here trying to seal the world. We are not trying to, like, actually do any trouble. We are destined with the Keyblade, itself, to seal the world and stop it from destruction. What are you talking about? What the hell are you actually talking about? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I don't get why Triton's acting like this, and it's so frustrating. And God, yeah. But I get his anger, but also, like, God, it's so dumb. It's like, what, we're trying literally to do our best. Eventually, Ursula overhears. She takes advantage of Ariel's depression and, like, explains that there are other worlds. And decides to sign a deal with her in order to get Ariel to other worlds. But it's like, Ursula gets the trident and she becomes all powerful, and Ariel regrets her decision, but she decides to fix this by going alongside us and going to fight Ursula, which I think is awesome. I love that storyline. I think that shit is the tits, and I think it's awesome. Just for everything it's worth. For the fight itself against Ursula, it can be frustrating, but, like, the way it works is that you're supposed to use, like, different magical abilities onto the pot, and then that's supposed to cause, like, the pot to explode, and then Ursula gets stunned, and then you can just, like, wail on her. And I didn't know that the first time. I generally just thought, like, oh, I have to keep hitting her, but, like, she has a strong health bar. But thankfully, on I believe it was my second attempt of the fight, like, I just started wailing on her, taking her down, and I won the fight that way. And that's about it, really. Then we go into phase 2, and she becomes gigantic, and we gotta fight her like that. And I love it. I love that fight as well. It's still frustrating with the controls, like, even in the first phase, but the second phase is pretty good since her hitbox is large. Like, you're basically supposed to hit her face, and, like, that's a solid fight for what it is. So then we get Triton back, and all is well that ends well, and we head off to another world. And Ariel explains, like, I hope one day to be able to explore other worlds. And it's like, the thing is that I really wish that they use that, like, as a concept for, like, we get to later see Ariel, and she has, like, her own gummy ship, and she's, like, exploring different worlds herself. I wish that was the case. Because, like, I would love to just randomly see Ariel just kind of, like, kind of just on her own adventure, exploring around each different world and seeing the sights of it all. That would be amazing. I wish they did that, but of course Disney can't allow that because we can't have actual, like, characters grow in a new way that's different from, like, the way they were portrayed in the films, which sucks because I genuinely do want, like, much bigger stuff done with those characters in a way, like, but I guess the world order and keeping it all together and all that, it's like, we have to do that. It's like, okay, fine. Yeah. But anyways, Halloween Town! We're going to Halloween! Halloween Town. I've never watched A Nightmare Before Christmas, but I do think it's, I do want to watch it at some point for myself. I do really like how the world's aesthetic changes. I do like that, like, the two worlds we get to pick between, both change Sora and the gang in some way, that it's like, it's changed, like, they either, like, go through a drastic change and, like, a cosmetic change. It's cool. I love it between the worlds, and it's like, it's a cool way of, like, showing just how everything kind of matches up. It's very cool. Sorry. Anyways, after that whole thing, we in Halloween Town, we get to see Jack Skellington. He's trying to control the Heartless, so that way he can plan it for like a Heartless festival, like his Halloween festival and all that. But he has to make a heart, and he has to get things from his friends. What's cool is that we get to have Jack Skellington on our team, which I think is a very cool thing to have. He's a very cool like character and all that. I think it's very cool. And we basically meet all these different characters. We then fight off against Oogie Boogie, who is essentially trying to use the heart that Jack is making with the professor in order to like control the Heartless for himself and essentially like ruin Halloween, I guess. We then have to kind of go and take it back. We explore his house. It's very complicated. His house is a very interesting design, but like I think traversing it is a little bit frustrating. Not terrible, but like once you fall off, it's like, oh, I have to go all the way back up, and I have to go through all of this, and it's like, it's a little frustrating. Not too terrible, but not great either. Once we able to like get into his like lair, it's we get into the fight, and it's like, oh, it's a roulette of different like attacks he has, and we have to also like push a button where we need to like trap him and then have the platform rise and then just wail on him. I do think that's a cool mechanic for what they do in that fight, and I think it's very neat. I love that how they utilize it. Then from there let's see. I'm trying to remember. There you go. There's so much to remember. From there, like, we managed to defeat him. We get the heart back, but it's like, oh, we don't really need it. And Heartless can't really be controlled, so it's like, Jack decides to plan for next Halloween, and we head off into our other world. So yeah. Then from there, we head towards Neverland. We encounter Riku again with Captain Hook, and then we end up getting captured, and it's revealed that like Riku was given the power to like control the Heartless. I know it was explained in a separate cutscene, but essentially now Riku can now control Heartless, and like he ends up forming a what I will call a Sora doppelganger out of like the Heartless, and essentially we are sent to the lower decks and captured. But then we find that Kairi is on board, and Riku knows this as well, and like we have to try and save her. Also we find Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. I don't know. I think with Neverland, I kind of just lost like interest. It's the one world where it's like, it's cool with what themes we get, but it's like we're on a boat the whole time. It's not that interesting. But generally, we just like make our way through the ship. We find Wendy. We find Kyrie's been taken away. But then, what is it? Then we have to fight Captain Hook. We get the ability to fly, which is cool. I love that. It's not terrible. Like, compared to the water controls, I'd say like the flying is way better. Mainly because it's not like a required mechanic, and like you can't technically just fight Captain Hook on the ship. But I like the flying more. I think the flying is very cool. But yeah, we defeat Captain Hook, we take down his armada, and then like we then set off for London, and we fix up the clock. And oh, did we even talk about the key? Was there a keyhole in Jack's world? I think there was a keyhole in Jack's world. We already sealed that up. And we did get like a skeleton. Wait, no, not skeleton. It was like a Halloween keyblade from there. Anyways, we managed to take down Hook. We head to London. We find that the keyhole is in the London clock. So I'm not gonna call it Big Ben because I know Big Ben is the bell inside the clock, not the clock itself. I know. But then we seal the keyhole. We then are allowed to just head on our way back. Tinkerbell then gets added to us as a summon. I didn't really care as much about the summons. I didn't really use them, so it's like, they're just kind of there. They're just kind of there, so it's like, I don't really care as much. Sorry. Then from there, we set off on our way. We make our way to Hollow Bastion, which is the final world. I guess we do head to Traverse Town a bit just to do some grinding, maybe get some like levels up, get some new like items and stuff. Because we have been doing this plenty of times already, so it's like you kind of have to go back to each. You kind of go back to different worlds once you've earned new abilities, or like you head back to like different places. I'll talk about like Merlin's Study in a little bit because there's a specific world I really like. That's kind of just a bonus thing you can do, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So with what is it? We end up in Hollow Bastion. That's next world. I love Hollow Bastion's design. I love the way it is. It's all kind of just like a world being held together by like steam and pipes and all that. We eventually find Riku. He ends up taking the Keyblade from us and essentially explains like, you're just the delivery boy. You were just meant to like give me the Keyblade and I'm actually supposed to be the wielder of it. It's like, oh, that sucks. And reluctantly, Donald and Goofy have to follow because they're like, we have to go with the person who has the Keyblade. That's I'm sorry, that's just the way it was, and that's how we were supposed to find King Mickey. And Sora's just given a wooden blade and just left on the ground, and it's like, it's sad. It's a sad moment. And like the Beast, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, came in a while ago. He fought against Riku, trying to find Belle, who is in this world, and ultimately it's just like sad because it's like he ends up getting like kind of pushed to the side, and Sora kind of experiences the same thing, and the Beast offers help, and the two of them decide to work together in order to find their friends and essentially get off this world. I'd say being without your Keyblade sucks. I think that part sucks the most. Thankfully, like, it's not for very long, but like generally it stings in that sort of sense. We do some exploring around, we open the castle doors, we find Riku in the main foyer, and then we team up with and then we see that like Donald and Goofy is like kind of reluctant to help out, and then Goofy, the badass that he is, sees that Sora's about to get blasted, shields Sora. He's like, you know what? I don't care like that Riku has the Keyblade now. Sora is my friend and I don't care. And he even says to Donald like, give my regards to King Mickey and tell him I'm really, really sorry about making this decision, but I gotta defend my friend. And I'm just like, oh my god, you beautiful bastard, you dumb goofy bitch. I love you so much. It's like, God, it's so good. And Donald's like, hey, we're gonna tell him together. And it's like, God, that's just even more. I love that so much. And then by the end, Sora ends up getting his Keyblade back just by sheer will of his friendship. And I'm just like, this is what Kingdom Hearts is about, baby. This is what it's about. The beauty of friendship and the true nature of the heart. That is what Kingdom Hearts is about, and I love it to bits. So now the team's reunited, Sora has his Keyblade back, and thus we make our way through Hollow Bastion, and we just solve a bunch of puzzles and stuff. I do like the exploration of it all. It's very cool, using all the magic and everything. I think it's just a really neat stuff to do. I think it's really, really cool. So yeah, we make our way through Hollow Bastion, we do all the stuff, we get all the items, face off against much stronger enemies, mind you. They get way stronger. like we've been doing, like there's been a gradual sense of like evolution towards the enemies, but it feels like we're actually facing off against really strong bad guys in this game. Like I feel like I'm not the only one who kind of experiences that, you know. So we managed to defeat, we managed to take down the enemies and stuff, gradually get all of the treasures, get all the secret stuff, all that. We make our way to the top of the tower. We, do we face? Oh yeah, we face, I believe it's that we face off against Maleficent once and then twice, and I believe it's explained that like Riku managed to unlock his heart towards the darkness, and now he's able to like wield his own sort of dark keyblade, and he basically unlocks Maleficent's like dragon form, allowing her to be much stronger. The fight is tough. I'll definitely agree that the dragon fight is very tough. It's not impossible though. It's not too impossible. I do think it's very frustrating with how it's handled and like the way the attacks all kind of go. But I do like that you can go up towards the vines, like the vines that surround the arena, and kind of just like sit up there and kind of just base on recovery, because I do think that's a really cool thing, and it's much better compared to another fight that I'm not gonna mention here because holy fuck, that fight sucks in general, but I'll get to that in a bit. Anyways, we get to like beat Maleficent. We then unlock the room where the princesses are being held, where the key to the world is being held, and we fight off against Riku, but it's a solo fight, so we have to like do the sort of 1v1. It's a relatively challenging fight, but it's not impossible, thankfully. It's just something that like you will have like a few attempts of like having to kind of just be careful about how you hit, how you approach it, and how you fight. But it's not too terrible. Then we defeat Riku. We then are able to we need to resuscitate Kairi, but then it's discovered that Kairi was actually in our heart all along. Remember that part in the game where like Kairi phased into Sora? That's what happened. A part of Kairi's heart ended up in Sora, so he realizes that like he has to unlock his heart and essentially free Kairi back into into her body and stuff. So he picks up Riku's Keyblade, that evil Keyblade, and unlocks his heart and then frees Kairi. But then he ends up disappearing, and it's like, oh no, Sora, no, he's gone. And it's like, oh man. Yeah, I guess the main character's dead. They actually killed him. He's dead. He's a gone guy. He's gone. Then out of the blue, Ansem shows up. Okay, so to explain who Ansem is, Ansem was a researcher who was trying to look into the darkness itself. He was trying to figure out how the Heartless work, why the worlds were falling, and he ended up getting corrupt by darkness himself, and he ends up appearing at the end of the game, and he basically wants to destroy all the worlds and have darkness completely shroud it and rebuild it anew. So at least that's what I think it was. I can't remember if that's exactly what it was, but essentially we eventually Riku manages to hold him back, since I think Riku's technically inside Ansem. It's a whole thing. I'm sorry. Burpees. Anyways, we see Riku's trying to hold back. Donald, Goofy, and Kairi leave. The Heartless start to surround. But then we notice that there's one Heartless in particular that's not wanting to fight them. And then it just follows behind it. It's like, oh, we're controlling the Heartless. Wait a minute, is that? And then we head down to the foyer and all that, and then we have an encounter. It's like, oh my god, it's Sora inside, and Kairi helps him, and he's guided back into the light. he's restored to his full potential and all that, and the two of them are once more, and then two of them reunite, they fight their way through and leave Hollow Bastion. I believe that's how it ends. So it's like, that's the end of the chapter, and then it's like, we have to head back to Hollow Bastion again. But there's also a bunch of like Heartless appearing around. It's like Hollow Bastion itself needs to be like, the keyhole needs to be sealed, or otherwise like more Heartless are gonna be appearing and it's gonna be a whole problem, and we gotta stop it. So we reunite with the Final Fantasy characters. We get like a little talk with each of them. Sid, who's been our main mechanic, helping us fix the gummy ship, he says that there's a secret gummy piece that like allows them to go to Hollow Bastion, but through a different route. So we gotta get that key. God. Oh boy. Sorry, I need to stretch my back. Oh my god. Okay, so we head off to... Sorry, we do some final preparations. We have one last talk with Kairi. She gives us a little charm saying like, alright, you take care of yourself, Sora, don't get hurt and all that. It's like, yeah, make sure to stay here, Kairi, and be careful, okay? It's like, alright then. Yeah, and yeah, essentially, we say our goodbyes, and we get a new Keyblade, and then we set off to Hollow Bastion through the new route. As a final gummy ship segment, it's pretty good. It's challenging for what it's worth. Though there is another one later on that I do think is really cool for what it is. And yeah, so we defeat all the enemies. We manage to make our way to Hollow Bastion. The rest of the Final Fantasy characters make their way there. We see the princesses as well. We have a little discussion with each one of them. We get some new abilities, we get some upgrades here and there, and then we just kind of like gradually make our way. We seal the keyhole. It's explained that we take on like a boss, like this like kind of monster dog type thing, Heartless, and we defeat it. We seal the world, and thus we have saved Hollow Bastion. But there's one more place we need to go, and that's where Ansem's heading towards to, and we gotta stop him, as well as also like save Riku or something like that. And yeah. Sorry. So yeah, we then the Final Fantasy characters make their way to the castle. We talk with them. We get some new abilities here and there. We get some healing and a healing upgrade. And then at this point in the game, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, clearly we are approaching the end game. This is going to be the final thing. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna go back to the arena and do all the fights. I get through all the cups. I managed to defeat Hades. I get some Keyblades here and there, some new upgrades to my abilities, and generally, I managed to do it. Then I take on the Gold and Platinum trial, and the Gold trial is against the Ice Golem, which we did fight the Rock Golem in the Hades Cup, which was a tough fight, but not like... Actually, no, that's a lie. You can relatively beat the Rock Golem, just... It's all a matter of just like hitting him around and all that. The Ice Golem is a whole other bullshit fight. I don't like that fight. You essentially have to deflect his ice beams back into the golem. It's like, oh my god, no, I hate this. So yeah, we take that. Yeah, we try to fight the ice golem. I didn't bother with it and just left. Then I tried to do the platinum fight, and that fight can go suck an egg. I hate that fight. I never, like, okay, it's impossible in the sense where it's like I can't even be able to like fight it at all. But there is one fight in particular, a secret boss fight. Essentially, like, you have to head to Agrabah. I think there's a certain point, like, after the story where it's like you have to head to Agrabah, and then like you find the magic carpet, and it's like, hey, you need to come with me right now. There's this important thing I need to show you. And you decide, okay, let's follow the carpet. You end up in the desert, and then this giant like heartless monster shows up with these blades and everything, and you get thrusted into an arena, and now you have to fight it. And I hate this fight in particular. The Agrabah, the giant heartless desert fight, fuck that fight. It is so hard, it is so monotonous, it is so goddamn annoying. And the worst part is, the terrain does not help, especially with dodging his attacks. You have to actively, like, the way it is that, like, you jump depending on what attack he's doing, and then you have to sometimes dodge roll, and even then you accidentally, like, you'll have moments where it's like you'll end up like dodging, but then it's like you end up like making the wrong dodge roll and you end up getting hit anyways. And he does so much damage, man. He does so much colossal damage, and it is a fucking frustrating fight. And like, you just have to be prepared with everything you got, because you gotta make sure. And you know what the worst part about this fight is? There are two parts of the fight. One part is where he'll put himself in a force field, and you essentially have to like hit it with only thunder magic. Thankfully, it's not too terrible, but it's still annoying. And you have to also dodge all of his attacks and kind of just like maneuver your way around and stuff. You do, like, hitting his bubble does drop MP, so it's like you don't actually run out of MP per se. But then once you do, you get to like kind of wail on him, do a lot of damage and stuff. But then the other parts of the fight, he ends up doing the worst thing ever by basically restricting you from using your MP. Meaning you can't do magic attacks, you can't do like arrow, which is basically a force field type thing, and you can't heal. That's the worst thing. You can't be able to heal using Curaga, and you have to beat the fight by just... You have to basically dodge around his attacks and defeat his orbs, and then they drop health bars. Which, yeah, that's fine, but there's barely a second where you get the chance to actually like dodge around. And you might have a lot of healing items, but this fight, his health bar is huge. You gotta account for that, and it's so frustrating. It's such an annoying fight. I hate it so much. Because even like with his spinning attacks, like, there'll be times where you're able to dodge under him, but then there are times where it's like the terrain is so uneven that like you aren't able to dodge around. It's so bad. If it was a flat surface, maybe there was a chance like you could have an easier chance of like dodging his attacks, but no. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate that fight so much. I hate it with all my being. And the fact that it takes away your MP bar, like the central thing that you probably use. Like, what if someone was just basically using magic attacks the whole game? What about then? What are they supposed to do? They can't do anything. Sorry, that was... I'm really heated about that. I hate that fight so much. But yeah, I was able to beat it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it fight. I don't even think you get like a new keyblade or anything like that. It's just, so frustrating. Yeah. At least with like, God, it's terrible for what it is, and I do wish that it was a better fight. Anyways, after that, we then get to see, what is it? We see, we then have to like make our way to like the end of the world. Once we're fully prepared and everything, we make our way to the end of the world. We get like our last few treasures there. There's a few fights here. There's some enemy types that are a bit frustrating. There's the like sword guy. You know, the one that like can put their sword down and then make these like purple flames surround you, and then you have to kind of dodge around. He's not terrible, but he's still very annoying to deal with, especially in the arena. Which thankfully, thank God I went to the arena, because I think the arena was a good way to practice with those sort of enemies. Yeah, we eventually do manage to defeat all the enemies in that area. We make our way down towards the core of this world and just kind of mosey our way. We do get into parts of the world where it's like, oh, these are different parts from like the world we've explored and all the different places we've been, and I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really cool thing that they did, just having like these central locations just having these central locations appear at the end of the game. I thought that was really cool. I guess the end of the world is a very much climactic world in and of itself. It's very much represents everything you've gone up to, every journey you've taken, and all the pieces you've done. It's all very cool, and just like beating each world, getting all the treasures from it, and just like progressing your way forward, it's very cool. Then from there, what else is there? Sorry, that came out wrong. After which we managed to get through each of the worlds. I guess I don't know if it's a good time because I did skip over it, and I don't wanna I wanna end the game on a high note. Let's talk about it. Pooh's World. Winnie the Pooh's World is a bonus world you can do in the game, and I think it's one of the most lightweight and very enjoyable things to do. Like, there's no combat or anything, you're just kind of helping Pooh and his friends with their tasks, and I love it. I love just how charming it is, how fun it is, and just enjoyable it is from start to finish. It's a very calm and serene world, and I love it. I do love it as a world in and of itself. It's very sweet. It very much feels like a really nice world. And just the sheer kindness of just helping Pooh with his world. Like, cause the way we arrive first and see him all by himself, like, him just kind of thinking to himself, like, how do I say goodbye to myself? And, like, he's explaining, like, all his friends have gone and, like, essentially said goodbye, but he's trying to figure out how to say goodbye to himself so that way he can go, and it's like, I feel so bad for him. And it just made me want to help him even more. And it was very much worthwhile just, like, doing those tasks and just, like, helping him out and everything. And, like, gradually, like, restoring the world itself and bringing back all the characters. That was neat. I really liked that a lot, and I thought that was really cool. Pooh's World, probably the most solid world out of all of them. Probably the one I think that is very cool. And I think the one I consider to be my personal favorite. Anyways, back to the end of the world, I guess. We make our way through, we go through some final enemy fights, we go through, like, one last, like, mini-boss, and then we end up, I think it's, like, we end up on Destiny Island, and we find the islands all around, but then it's, like, it's gradually disappearing with some things, and then we eventually encounter, Ansem, and he explains, like, he goes on a whole monologue about the darkness, how the light is futile, how, like, the world itself, like, these worlds are all built from darkness and everything comes from darkness, and, like, light will never shine once more. And we eventually fight him. He's a challenging fight, definitely one I consider to be very hard. Not as hard as a lot of the shit we've been dealing with thus far. We do fight him, like, the first phase is essentially we have our partners, second phase we don't have our partners, and then third phase, he envelops the entire world and then just forms this, like, we end up fighting, like, that monster hand thing that we fought, like, at the beginning of our adventure, like, the one that like was around the time Destiny Island was being destroyed. We defeat it, and then Ansem basically brings out this giant ship, which reminded me of Meta Knight's ship from Kirby, just with the way it's designed, in a way. But then we take down Ansem, we then do some more damage in her, and like we manage to free Donald and Goofy. We take them down even more, fight more, and we get words of encouragement from Riku at the beginning of the fight where it's like, come on, Sora, you're not gonna give up now. And that made me smile so much. I was like, oh, he's still there, dude. He's still trying to help. And it's like, it's great. Eventually Ansem then like manages to try to open Kingdom Hearts, which is essentially this big door. But I'm pretty sure there's more to it later on down the line. But like, yeah. He opens the Kingdom Hearts door, and it turns out that like in the darkness there is light, and he ends up getting destroyed by the light. Oh no, how could I fucking predict this? No. And yeah, that's it. And then we open up then we see that we need to seal the door. Riku's on the other side, cause as you remember, there was a thing about like that 2 Keyblade wielders must be on one side of each of the doors in order for it to be sealed. And Mickey is there as well, and he's there to help out by sealing the door as well, and like fending off against the Heartless. And he explains like, don't worry guys, there'll be a... God. Can I do a Mickey voice? Let me see. Don't worry guys. Oh god, no. Okay, my voice is gonna... Hang on. Don't worry, guys. You guys just have to find the next door somewhere, huh? God, that was terrible. That was terrible. I'm never doing that again. But yeah, he explains that there's another way to find them. There's another way to like free them out of the dark world and all that. So they seal the door, and everything goes back to normal. And then we see that like we get a final cutscene where we see like Kairi is noticing that like she's appearing on Destiny Island, and Sora is like there, but he explains like, he's not going back there as well, which I thought was a little strange, but I'm sure there's like a bigger explanation in the next game. But then he basically says like, don't worry Kairi, we'll find each other again. I promise I'll find you again, and I'll promise I'll find Riku too. And it's like, it's sad. That moment like was sad, and then the music kicks in the second they let it go of each other's hands, and I'm like, oh god. It's like, when you walk away, we don't need to say don't go. God. Oh my god, that song hits. I understand the feeling of it all. And we get our credits, we get Blade theme, we see like reunion of different characters. I saw Aerith and Cloud reunite, and I was just like, oh my god, fuck yeah dude, that made me smile. And my dumbass wanted to say, oh please kiss. It's like, no, there's no way they're gonna do it. But then it was followed up by Jasmine and Aladdin kissing, and I was like, close enough, that's fine by me. Yeah. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts. I love Kingdom Hearts. I think this game is amazing. Oh wait, actually, there's also the post-credit scene. We see Donald and Goofy are in their normal clothes. Sora's still in his weird fashion sense, which is basically what he started off the game with anyways. So yeah, they're basically walking around and being like, alright, how the heck are we gonna find King Mickey and Riku? And it's like, we have no idea. And then Pluto shows up and it's like, I have a letter over here. And it's like, wait, do you know where King Mickey and Riku are? It's like, what? And then he just kind of goes off and runs off. It's like, oh, we gotta follow him. And they run off into the distance, and thus leading into Chain of Memories. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, yeah. Yeah, I'm not playing Chain of Memories, I'm sorry. I'll watch all the cutscenes just to get all the information. I'm not playing that shitting game. I tried to play it. I really tried to. I just couldn't stomach it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, okay? I do think it could be solid for what it is, but like I still want to know the lore of the games, but I'm not playing Chain of Memories. God, don't make me play that shitting game. Um, there's also like other things. There's also this like mysterious hooded guy as a secret boss that shows up in Hollow Bastion. He's a tough fight. I didn't play him. I didn't even bother to go look for him. He does have some things where he's like explaining that like there's much more. There's a very important thing about Sora, and there's much more to this that he's not laying on. He does show up like in Chain of Memories, which is why I guess he's in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. So yeah, yeah. Anyways, that's Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. What can I say about it? Great game, decent story, and like solid gameplay. I do think for what it brings to the table, it is a very fun RPG. And I do think it's a worthwhile game for people to try out for themselves if they have never tried RPGs for themselves. Because, my god, I love this game so much. I love it to bits. I think it's one of the best things ever. It's not my personal favorite. I need to play all the Kingdom Hearts games in order to pick out which one I consider to be my favorite, like overall. I think there is one that I did try out that I do think is pretty good, but that's for much later. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts is a worthwhile game series. I do think people should try it out for themselves. I think everyone should give it a shot. It's not complicated. There's a lot to remember, but it's not complicated. It's all a matter of just like remembering stuff. That is all. As much as maybe my rambling today wasn't as like good of an example to explain it all, but I do think it's still worthwhile playing. Just make sure that you start from Kingdom Hearts 1 and then play the games in order of release. With each game that was released, they updated information and it gradually makes sense as time goes on. Trust me on this, it's not complicated. It can be semi-complicated, but it's not entirely like a mindfuck, okay? I believe in you guys. I believe that you guys can understand it. I believe that like anyone can be able to grasp this game's lore and its ideas. And I believe that you guys can enjoy this game. That is my thoughts with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. Yeah. Also, just as a word to the wise, make sure you play the Final Mix version of each of these games. Because the Final Mix versions are essentially like everything. It's basically like all of the information and like then some. So it's like there's a lot of stuff that in these games. So make sure it's like the definitive version of each of the games. So that way you get an understanding of everything. All the information is at your fingertips and it's not like a monotonous thing, okay? That's all I have to say about it. Yeah. Sorry. Oh my god, I've been talking for like an hour and 30 minutes looking at the recording. Holy hell. It has been, oh man. But yeah, I hope at least you enjoyed my ramblings about Kingdom Hearts. I'll edit this into like a proper video. And I hope you guys enjoyed my return video to the Clopdrawer Podcast. Because holy crap, I love this series, and I think I just love talking about these sort of things and like just going about it, because I wanted to really talk about Kingdom Hearts and my experience, and I wanted to do it in a way where it's like I do a proper review of it, but at the same time I was like, I just want to do this proper. It's like this is my outlet in order to like get my thoughts out and properly like explain and everything. I think I'm gonna stick to the podcast format for a while. I think generally that's the one where I shine the most. It's the one where I feel like I'm most comfortable with. And I might just do Let's Plays, if I'm being honest. I might try to do them again. I have been having an on and off session with it, so it's like I haven't been as deciding about it. But yeah, I do think it's a worthwhile thing. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it all. I hope like you found yourselves like enjoying yourself. God, sorry. I do really like Kingdom Hearts for what it is. I do think it's a solid game. I do think it's something that is worth playing, and I do wish that people get to try it out for themselves. Just make sure you play like the order of release, and make sure it's the definitive versions of each game, so that way like you have all the information, you have all the notes and stuff, you know what games to play, you know all the good stuff. There's no need for like getting lost in it all. So yeah, that's it. Oh my god, it's 140. Oh god, it's 1 hour 40 minutes. Yeah, okay. So I think scale on 1 to 10, Kingdom Hearts to me is it's an 8.5. I think Kingdom Hearts Final Mix is an 8.5. It's very solid, very fun time. Very much a game that I would like recommend to people, and a game that like is worth playing, because if you're a fan of RPGs or action RPGs in general, this game is something that's worth trying out. So yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. My name's been Mr. Boom 87. I hope you all enjoyed my video. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the content I try to put out as time goes on, and as always, I shall see y'all in the next video.